When hope is gone, undo this lock and send me forth on a moonlit walk. Release restraint level 0. Hey kids, wanna see a dead body?
Hey guys, this is the Void of the Ravenclaw. Welcome back to another fanfiction story. If you like this type of content, smash the like button and subscribe for future updates that I do post on my community tab frequently. My bad on my last video. My mic wasn't like close to my mouth, or close to my face, so that's why it kind of sounded like I was like far away. That shouldn't be an issue in this part. Now let's continue where we last left off in our story. The next day, while his medical division of his Blood Knights helped the wounded to activate their healing factor and treating the werewolves from silver poisoning from the silver arrows that they were hit with during the attack, as you can see Izuku in his cat form walking around the complex, observing all the werewolves going about their day and starting to repair the damage to the several wooden cabins that will set on fire in their little village inside the compound. Izuku even noticed they are starting to build a wall around the whole place, making it into a fortress. I see you're exploring. The damage would have been a lot more severe if I didn't act as fast as I did. Izuku looked up at the werewolf alpha. You made the right call. I could tell you're a good leader, Wolfkin. Your sister wanted me to tell you that she's going to meet with Lady Inko to inform her of the situation. I have no doubt she's probably going to arrange another council meeting. They'll just have to survive without me. I guess you're stuck with me for a while. I suppose I am, Wolfkin. I'm going to head back. I'm going to take a little cat nap. Wake me up if you need my assistance for anything. But I think my Blood Knights have everything taken care of. Will do. Izuku walked back to the pack house and went back to the guest room where he's been staying at to fall asleep until the nightfall. There's not much he can do during the day. His knight is already taking care of it. He doesn't know any healing spells, so he's pretty much going to be useless until nightfall. They're going to monitor the abandoned city where they were last night. So he needs to have much rest as possible until nightfall. He really doesn't need to sleep, but he likes the habit of doing it. It's part of his Neko instincts. He might be a vampire, but he's also part cat, so it comes with the territory. And the type of vampire he is, the Midoriyas, they do require sleep, but not for very long. Hour at the most. When Izuku entered his temporary chambers, he saw Cassandra passed out. Izuku knew she's been working hard. Instead of waking her up, he just jumped on the bed and lay near her neck, curled up in a little ball. It's not the first time Cassandra has snuck into his chambers to fall asleep. Izuku has always enjoyed her company. Cassandra looks much like his sister if she was younger, despite, the minor differences in their faces, but she does look quite a bit like Izumi. She basically looks like a younger Izumi. She might have some similar features to his sister, but their personality is completely different. Later that day, or that night, as 7 o'clock finally struck, Cassandra yawned and stretched out her arms as she noticed the young master sleeping on her stomach, curled up in a little ball. Izuku got up and jumped off of Cassandra and stretched. "I see you're finally up, Cassandra. You're not going to lecture me? What's the point? You're not going to listen. You're going to sneak in my room, regardless where I'm sleeping in, or where I'm sleeping at. I got used to it by now." Cassandra couldn't help but laugh nervously by scratching the back of her head with her hand. "Sorry about that, sir. It's quite alright. Looks like we're going to have to start work tonight. So we're going to recon that abandoned city you were talking about. We're just scouting the city. Once we can pinpoint all the threats in this city, then we'll act. But until then, we're just doing recon. I'm waiting to hear word from the council on our next course of action, if they even make a course of action. Then we have some time to get something to eat." As Cassandra picked up Izuku hold him in her arms as she walked out of the room to head towards the temporary quarters for all the Blood Knights that are staying in one of the larger log cabins. Cassandra walked in to see Scarlet by the fireplace, reading a book. "There you are. Let me take a wild guess. You snuck into the young master's room again." Cassandra laughed nervously. "Guilty as charged. I suppose you're hungry," as Scarlet started to pour Cassandra a glass of blood. While she filled the glass, she began to fill a small bowl filled with blood and put it on the ground for her master to drink, considering he's in his cat form. Izuku jumped out of Cassandra's arms and made his way to the bowl filled with blood and began drinking it. After Izuku got done eating, he jumped on Scarlet's lap while she's still reading a book. 5 minutes later, she closed it. "I believe it's time for us to leave. Orders, sir." "We're just scouting the area, pinpointing the threats. We're not going to confront them, not just yet. Hopefully we can find some evidence on what they're actually planning." "Understood, sir." "Cassandra, get gear up. We leave in 5 minutes." As Scarlet left the cabin with Izuku in her arms a second later, Cassandra came out as Scarlet ordered a small number of Blood Knights to accompany them as they made their way to the abandoned city to do a little recon. Izuku jumped out of Scarlet's arms and shifted back into his normal form. The moment his feet touched the ground, he went into a sprint, then a run. When he sees the city in the distance, fast approaching, he picked up his speed a little bit. Sir, as Scarlet ran right next to Izuku, I see several vampire scouts on top of several of the buildings. What's your orders, sir? Correct me if I'm wrong, but would it be more efficient if we send Cassandra? If I remember right, she's very adept in stealth, infiltration, and assassination. I completely agree with you. I know what to do. Cassandra, you know what to do. I'll take care of it. Cassandra ran ahead of them. When she got close enough to the city, she went into the nearby shadows, disappearing from sight. It's only natural that she would be adept moving through the shadows. She was personally taught by Izumi herself. Izumi herself, she's a master of shadow walking. So Cassandra learned quite a lot. She's not up to Izumi's skill level, but she's learning. Cassandra came halfway out of the shadow, right behind her victim, as a black energy string shot out and wrapped around the vampire's neck with a simple tug by one of her fingers from the strings that the energy strings attached to. The vampire's head fell off his body as the vampire turned to ash, as Cassandra sinks back into the shadows. Cassandra came out another shadow right behind another vampire and ripped off his head as she sunk right back into the shadows. As this occurred several more times, until all of the lookouts were killed, as Cassandra reappeared out of the shadows right next to her commander, Scarlet, and her master, Izuku, when they entered the city. Proficient as always. Excellent work, Cassandra. Cassandra couldn't help but beam at being praised by her master. Izuku's quite pleased with Cassandra's performance. He knows she's been aiming to be the spy master of the spy division of the Blood Knights. The position of spy master hasn't been filled yet. Izuku is just waiting for the right person to come along to take the job. He believes he's found his spy master, Cassandra. She's also been training with his sister, and she is deadly in the art of infiltration, assassination, and sabotage. It's not a secret that Cassandra has been aiming for that position for quite some time now. And most likely that's why she sought his sister out for training for that very purpose. From now on, moving forward, no magic, no flashy attacks. We don't want to draw their attention to ourselves. If we engage in any resistance, use your weaponry, either by creating a blood weapon with blood magic, or use the weapons you're carrying on you. We're here to scout, and gather information, not engage in every single opportunity to fight these scum. All of the Blood Knights nod at their count and went on their separate ways. Izuku shifted into his cat form and spread out his bat wings, or his wings, and took flight as he began to scout the city from the sky, while his Blood Knights are scouting the city on foot or on rooftop. Either way, his knights got everything handled on the ground, while he has the air. Using his vampire sight, he could see several heartbeats inside one of the buildings. The odd thing is, they're all huddled up together underneath the building. Izuku descend downward, only to see several lookouts on top of the roof of the building. It's only a one-story building, but it's still quite tall for the current age of architect that Americans have access to. Izuku still doesn't know why the city was abandoned in the first place, but that's really not important for him, as Izuku flew close enough to attack so the wind doesn't affect his trajectory of one of his range attacks. As he made a pass, once he made a pass, fly past him basically, shot out several black bone shards, hitting all of the lookouts on top of the building all at once, as the vampires begin to decay away. More they struggle, the faster the decay progress. They only last a couple seconds. Izuku gained entry to the building by flying through one of the windows that was open, and found himself in a small room filled with crates of silver shackles. Izuku reverted back to his normal form. There are some things in his cat form that... let's try this again. Izuku reverted back to his normal form. There are some things in his cat form he can't do by opening, doors and all that. He might be able to do it with his tail if he tried, but he hasn't practiced that before. So it's easier in his normal form. He has opposable thumbs and fingers and all that. But he's not sure what to expect moving forward. His cat form does have many uses in certain situations, but unfortunately this is not one of those situations. So he stepped out of the room while holding on to two bone daggers in his hand. They're his normal bone daggers. My bad, he's holding on to his black bone daggers. He's using his most dangerous type of bone he's able to produce. All of his black bones that he's able to shoot out or create into weapons all have the same effect, that they are able to decay you. That's what makes Izuku a very dangerous vampire to fight against. Out of all the Midoriya, Izuku is far more dangerous compared to the rest of his family. Not saying they're not dangerous in their own right. Compared to his sister and mother, he's still weaker from the two of them. But that doesn't mean he's not deadly. The moment Izuku walked into the hallway, he immediately could smell the stench of wolf kin all over the place. Izuku narrowed his eyes as he tightened his grip on both of his bone daggers that's currently in his hand, as he proceed very cautiously moving forward. Izuku is no fool. There is a werewolf in this building. He's already been discovered. Werewolves have impressive sense of smell, hear, and sight. So sneaking around would be completely pointless. Izuku found it odd that he clearly can smell the scent of werewolves, but he hasn't come across a single one of them yet. Not even a vampire inside the building. They might have been on top, but no vampires are inside the building. He found that very odd. Izuku turned around to see a full transformed werewolf ran past the corner and directly charged at Izuku. He was forced to hop backwards to dodge a incoming claw swipe. Izuku jumped on top of the werewolf's head, then leap off in mid-flight as he kicked him while he was jumping off his head, as the werewolf face went into a nearby wall, as he went flying into the wall, basically. Izuku, once he landed gracefully on the floor, watching the werewolf shake his head, getting the cobwebs from his head, hitting the wall, face first. Once the werewolf recovered, he immediately charged and tried to sweep another claw swipe, only for Izuku to dive under into a slide, as his cat tail is covered in some sort of bone armor, as there's a blade at the end of it, a bone blade at the end of his tail, as Izuku's tail stabbed into the werewolf's side of his ribs. The bone-like armor is very sharp. It's red, it's not his decaying bones, but it's still extremely painful, as the armor on his tail is pure red, like blood. Drawing first blood, he went in for the kill and hopped on the back of the werewolf and slammed both of his daggers on each side of the skull of the werewolf. As the werewolf dropped to the ground, immediately beginning to decay, killing the mutt instantly. His black bones, or any weapon he creates with it, can bypass a werewolf's healing factor, making the werewolf in question having a hard time healing himself once injured. His decay aspect of his black bones does have a weakness. His black bones is a one-hit kill, but that doesn't mean there isn't a way to prevent further decaying. The bright boy that he is, he knows of several different type of magic spells that could prevent further decay or nullify it completely. You just got to know the right spell. When he found out about that by experimenting with his black bones, he even found a way to negate the effects completely or nullify it through the method of applying potions. There's still magic involved when it comes to potion making, but the effects are still the same. But that's not public knowledge. Him himself, he is completely immune to his black bones, but that doesn't mean that he wouldn't come up with a method to negate or his decay ability from his bones, in case he doesn't want the person to die. Black bones are very dangerous, and he treats them as such. He would never use that type of bone in a friendly spar, at least not on purpose. Like when his black bone tendrils manifested when he was training with his mother's blood clones. That was on accident. That was the first time he used black bones in training or any sort of spar. He's never repeated that experience. That doesn't mean he doesn't train with his black bones. He just won't do so when there's people nearby. While Izuku was still traveling through the building, a very powerful howl could be heard everywhere in the interior of the building. Soon afterward, there was a booming cackle, boosted by magic. What do we have here? A little stray vampire cat wander in. So we finally meet Izuku Midoriya. Worry not, little kitty cat. The remaining of my kin inside this building will not lay a single claw on you. Follow the hallway, and that will lead you to the secret entrance. Where I am, little kitty cat. Izuku wasn't sure how that werewolf could make her voice reach to him from down below, but he didn't put too much thought in it. He figured it was some sort of magic was most likely involved. Magic has many applications, so he's not going to rule that out. He followed the hallway. Then he noticed a couple werewolves fully transformed, keeping an eye on him, but keeping their distance. But they're clearly trying to intimidate him. But ultimately it was a failure. He's not intimidated one bit, annoyed mostly, but other words, completely ignoring them, like they're not even deem a threat, to shift his attention towards them. And of course, that irritated all the werewolves, but they couldn't do nothing. They have their orders. Izuku found the secret entrance in one of the rooms by removing the bookshelf completely off the wall as he descended down the stairs. When he finally got to the end of the flight of stairways, he found himself entering a huge chamber with some sort of jail cell on both sides of the room, filled with people in them. They're clearly all humans. Izuku assumed that they're most likely the residents of this city. They're all wearing tattered rags. He clearly could smell and feel the pure fear emanating from the humans. Izuku narrowed his eyes in the middle of the room. He sees two figures. The bigger one is blocking the one behind him, but the one in front is not hard to miss. He's a huge, fully transformed werewolf with black fur. And behind the werewolf seems to be a female lichen from the angle he can see her from. The pointy white dog ears is a big giveaway, and the fluffy tail behind her is any indication. She's clearly a lichen. Izuku walked out of the shadows of the chamber. Only source of light in the room is torches hanging all along the walls of the chamber, as the two werewolves immediately notice his presence. So you're the feline vampire I've heard so much about from White. I see the rumors are true. Council member to boot. And the fact that you run your own city filled with bloodsuckers like yourself. Council member and a count of a city filled with vampires. Izuku Midoriya. Or, how other people know you, aka the Reaper. Reaper? I have no such knowledge of that title. It doesn't matter if you have knowledge of the title. It's your title nonetheless. That's what people refer you in the supernatural world. A vampire cat with cat features, with raven black hair, with red glowing cat eyes. We're fully aware who you are. White has revealed so much about you in your existence. Fascinating, really. Considering being all chummy right now, I do have an inquiry, if you would allow it. Might as well hear you out. After all, you're gonna die soon. I still don't get it. Why you're working with them? They must have promised you something pretty expensive and must have promised you something very valuable to get you to work alongside with the vampire witches and vampire ghouls, alongside with those skinwalkers. So I guess it wouldn't do too much harm to tell you, considering you won't live long enough to tell anyone. It's quite simple. They promised us land when they finally take over, and they will give my pack a permanent home. That's the only reason why I'm working with those disgusting creatures. Shadowfang, kill him. With pleasure, Alpha. Luna watched closely to the fight. She knows Shadowfang is no slouch, especially when he's fully transformed. He's no pureblood, but that doesn't discount how powerful he is. But she knows his opponent's no slouch either. She investigated the incident closely when a rogue vampire clan was completely wiped out from existence. If it wasn't for the random rogue werewolf that she captured, she wouldn't even know of the incident even existing, or the incident even occurring. She saw through the wolf's mind using magic, and what she saw was quite impressive. From that day, she kept an eye out on any information about the description she saw in the rogue's memories of a vampire catboy. And when she found out he runs his own vampire city, she got more curious about the bloodsucker. It's a shame, really, that I have to kill him. For a vampire, he doesn't seem all that bad. If the situations were different, I could see myself getting along with that vampire. Luna's nowhere near the type of werewolf that likes vampires. She's seen a single vampire wipe out an entire pack. That's something she wants to avoid with her own pack. Luna has no intention of intervening in Shadowfang's fight with Izuku. She is fully aware he's been making moves to take over the pack, so that's why she's allowing this to transpire. Either way, one problem will be out of her hair. If Shadowfang ends up killing the vampire, that's one That's one problem out of the way. But if Shadowfang gets killed, that he personally gets killed by the vampire, that's more. That's no. And she doesn't care either way. Either way, one problem will be dealt with. She has no love for the bastard. She doesn't even like him. But he's a member of her pack. She's been waiting for an excuse to execute him. There's one thing Shadowfang is, and he's not stupid. He will never leave evidence of him being a traitor. So this fight with Reaper is a blessing in disguise. Even if Reaper doesn't kill him, she'll just kill him here and now, considering there's no evidence, and she could always say the vampire killed him. Shadowfang walked towards Izuku while pulling out his double-handed great sword from his back. Izuku noticed this chamber. Izuku noticed if this chamber was any smaller, it would be a tad bit difficult to move around in a battle. But luckily for him, the chamber is quite wide in an octagon, so he got plenty of room to move around. Izuku made his dagger dissipate as he created a void scythe in his hands, giving more evidence that proves that his title is well earned. That he was bestowed upon by the residents of the supernatural world, and it fits him perfectly. He might not admit it, but it does. As both opponents charge at each other, as their weapons collide in a fierce battle, as you can see sparks flying once their weapons make contact with each other. Izuku could easily cut through his sword if he wanted to, just channeling more void energy into his scythe. It wouldn't take him very much void energy to do so, but that would ruin his fun. He's actually enjoying this battle. Despite how large this werewolf is and how large his weapon is, he's still able to move extremely fast with that large weapon. He was quite impressed. So he has no doubt he's battling a seasoned warrior. Izuku blocked a right swing, then ducked under another sword swung. Izuku immediately juggled his scythe around his waist, basically spinning the scythe around his waist, slashing upwards. If it wasn't for Shadowfang's battle instinct, he would have been cut in two, as he blocked the attack with the broad end of his sword, then kicked Izuku in the stomach as he went skidding backwards a little bit, as he slammed his scythe into the stone tile to slow down his momentum until he went to a stop. You're good, Wolfkin. I would even say you're a master at your craft. The mere fact you're able to move that large greatsword you're carrying is quite a feat. You're not too shabby yourself, bloodsucker. You're pretty deadly with that ominous energy scythe of yours. Don't know if that's magic or not, but I don't like the feeling of it. It's dangerous. That's all I know. Before we continue this battle to the death, what is your name, Wolfkin? So I know what to sketch on your tombstone. Shadowfang could only smirk at the attempt to anger him. I already know what your name is. So I know what I'm going to sketch on your tombstone, Midoriya. But with that said, named Shadowfang. And that's the last name you ever hear. As they both rush towards each other once again, beginning to clash with their weapons. Izuku is now moving a lot more faster than he was prior, making it very hard for Shadowfang to block or even counterattack. Izuku got in close with his scythe that clearly changed his size to a smaller. So he began to parry sword swings with greater ease. Shadowfang swung a large sword swing. Izuku parried it, made Shadowfang unbalanced. Izuku took this chance and slashed his scythe upwards, cutting the werewolf completely in half with his void scythe. Sadly, that did not kill him, as the werewolf begins to repair itself. But by then, he's already have the fight in the bag, as Izuku is behind the werewolf, holding the scythe as the scythe blade is against the front end of his neck. Now, short pause, why he survived that? He just has a better regeneration than most turn-based werewolves. As long as his brain doesn't get hit, he's pretty much to go. Losing his head would definitely kill him, but regardless. With the scythe blade resting against his neck, and how injured he is, or was, after his healing factor activated, as he coughed up blood, he knows he's lost this fight, but he's no coward. He will take his death like a warrior. Well played, vampire. Finish it. Izuku did not hesitate by chopping off his head, as he reverted back to his human form, headless. Izuku dissipated his weapon and focused his attention to the female lichen, as he could clearly see she has her fist resting under her chin, while her elbow is resting on the arm of a stone-like throne in the middle of the chamber. She stared at the vampire for a few more seconds, as she hopped off of her throne that's in the middle of the chamber and made her approach towards the vampire while smirking the entire time. I gotta ask, I have a hard time wrapping my head around this. Why you have humans in here, caged up? I don't think they would serve any purpose to your group. They're just civilians of this city. They were captured before they could form any sort of rebellion or resistance. I offered them to join the pack, but they refused, so I had to lock up the hunters. Can be a bother sometimes. Izuku scanned the faces of the humans again. Hearing that comment from the female alpha that there's hunters involved, he immediately could spot several hunters and mixed with the rest of the average civilians that's in the cages. I'll give you a little reward, kitty cat, considering you got rid of a problem for me. Apparently, one of the hunters turned traitor, so we were able to capture a good portion of their little hunting family before they could resist. They're eventually going to be all killed off. Don't give me that look. I might be a werewolf when I'm not a monster. If it wasn't for me, they would have been dead a long time ago. I might have extended their life, but they will die. They threatened the main plan. At least that's what White would constantly tell us. I believe I I believe I revealed enough information to satisfy you for right now. Luna unsheathed one of her katanas and got into a fighting stance. Luna raised her eyebrow at the bone-like sword that the vampire pulled out of the palm of his hand. With the color of the bone is bright blood red. Izuku copied his opponent and got into a sword stance himself. This is the first time he would ever fight against a Lycan and a Alpha at that. The battle is definitely going to be one of his most difficult yet. He could tell she's extremely powerful, just how she presents herself. And there's not a single flaw in her sword stance. And her sharp eyes tells she's had a vast experience in battle, regardless how young she looks. As they both went into a upward slash towards each other, as both attacks collided at the same time, making sparks as they both spin around and threw out a sideward sword slash. The outcome was the same, as both of their weapons collided with each other, making more sparks. Izuku was surprised by her pure strength. That simple interaction with his bone sword, made with his opponent's sword, sent him backwards from her pure physical strength the Wolfkin can produce. He has no doubt she's holding back. He could tell when someone's holding back while he's fighting them. He can't blame her. He's also holding back. He's never had to unleash his third eye before. He's never had to release his third eye before in battle. Once he activates his third eye, his speed reflexes are doubled, including a large boost of his magic, reserves, and power. Luna noticed the vampire open a third eye in the middle of his forehead. Much like his two other eyes. They're the same color, but a tad bit bigger. It's glowing crimson red with cat-like pupils. Stranging, the eye open up from top to bottom instead of going long ways. It's going upwards. That is open up. Here's a reference, Kaguya from Naruto, how her third eye opens up. That's basically how his eye opens up. I was able to tell the difference the moment that third eye opened up. His speed could clearly increase. She barely was able to keep up with the vampire and his fast-paced movements. And being part feline, it's extremely difficult when he keeps bouncing around and acrobatics and doing acrobats. Izuku pushed Luna, forcing her to use her opposite hand to pull out her second katana. Izuku was quite surprised by the Wolfkin's burst of new speed, even managing to keep up with him while his third eye is activated. Wind pressure begins to go off in the room. From each sword swing, they threw out each other, creating more wind pressure. As you can see, tears of sword slashes all over the room, all over the walls and floor of the room, and ceiling from their high-speed sword battle. As all you could see is sparks flying all over the place. At least that's what the humans can see. As a large burst of wind was created, then suddenly they reappeared, making themselves visible once again for all the humans in the cells that are currently bystanders of the fight. As you can see cracks on their weapons, they both rush towards each other once again, with less speed this time around. When Red Bone sword collide with the two katanas, all three weapons shattered, as they both jump backwards to get some distance from each other. As they toss their broken weapons to the side, Izuku picked out the chunks of shards of metal out of his arm from the ricochet metal from the weapon shattering from his opponent. The moment he pulled out the metal shards, his wound immediately healed itself instantly. Luna did the same by taking out the shards of bone from the bone sword when it shattered. That pierced her flesh on her right arm. Much like the vampire, her wound instantly healed as well. Luna hasn't had a fight like this in 100 years. In a full 100 years since she's faced a worthy opponent. Because of that, she has a massive smile on her face, almost psychotic. She has goosebumps in her entire body. She loves this feeling. It's a shame her sword broke, but she could always have a new one forged. Making swords, katanas, is not a hard thing to acquire. Considering she forged them herself. Izuki used this brief opening to create several warp portals, sucking up all the humans in the prison cells, teleporting the humans, including the hunters, safely away from the abandoned city. With the humans out of the way, out of danger, and out of mind, he can finally unleash his magic. Saw the warp portals suck up all the humans, no doubt to safety. She did not care, nor is it her responsibility, to prevent the humans and the hunters from escaping. If they live or die, that's not her concern. No longer her concern. She's fine with that, but she was broken out of her pondering by a powerful burst of magic power, making the air very condensed and heavy, as Luna could feel a slight pressure just from his magic aura alone. As her eyes widen a tad bit. It's quite terrifying in her opinion, but she kept her cool and composure, and ignited fireballs in both of her hands. As their battle switched from wielding swords to magic, Izuku suddenly looked up towards the ceiling. So did Luna, as Izuku and Luna could feel a burst of magical power charging up above them. Luna's eyes widened. That crazy bastard. We need to leave now. Apparently my so-called allies are aware of your presence here, and they're willing to destroy this entire area just to kill you, including me in the process. When I get out of here, I'm going to kill them, but I need to get out of here first. Considering my own allies are trying to kill me, looks like we're no longer enemies. Izuku followed the female alpha, open up a pathway through a wall, as he followed her, eventually going down a couple stairs as they arrive at a wide room. Nothing inside, and just the stone walls and stone floor. As Luna turned around and grabbed Izuku by the collar. Name's Luna, kitten. Remembered it. Remember it. It would be a shame if you died here so soon. As she placed her lips against Izuku's in a kiss, and triggered a floor. What? A trigger on the floor, basically. What I'm trying to say. As the floor opened up underneath Izuku, as Izuku dropped down, as Luna gave him a wink, as she made her way to her own escape route. When Izuku got done sliding down, he found himself sliding into a cave. Once he exited the small cave, he could see a large array of magical energy gathering up until it stopped and it shot down, engulfing the entire city. Whatever they were planning, they clearly got rid of any evidence by vaporizing the entire city. Izuku can sense all of his knights are heading towards his direction, so he was relieved that none of his knights were killed. But that wolf's gall of kissing him irritated him to no end. Wasn't expecting it. He was caught off guard because there was no hostility in her actions. That's why he didn't react. The female alpha looks quite young, but wolfkins have a long lifespan. So that alpha might be a lot older. That alpha might be older or younger. He can't really tell. Lycans live a lot longer than normal churn-based werewolves. But regardless, werewolves clearly have a longer lifespan than a normal human. It's not out of the ordinary for a churn werewolf to live 400 to 500 years. We don't live that long because they die beforehand. Lycans, on the other hand, have a very large lifespan. Second largest compared to vampires, but vampires still have a longer lifespan if they live long enough, if they don't get slayed by a vampire hunter or a werewolf or be killed by another vampire. Hold on the story. The love interest in this story is Wednesday Addams, but that doesn't mean he won't have a prior relationship before he actually meets her. I have planned for Luna to be something more than a common enemy that Izuku will fight against. That is remain to be seen. Depending on how I structure the story will determine Luna's placement in the overall story moving forward. But let's get back to the story. Once he saw his blood knights in the distance, his third eye closed and disappeared from his forehead. It's good to see you're all well. Let's go back. Debrief me once we're out of here. Scarlet nodded at her master and ordered the rest of the knights back to the cabin at the compound of the Silver Moon Pack. It didn't take them long to get back to the Silver Moon Pack territory and back to the cabin where all the Blood Knights are using it for lodgings while they're in the werewolf's territory. Report, Scarlet. When we separated, I did not encounter any resistance, nor were we spotted, but we did see a large number of vampire ghouls and skinwalkers suddenly try to escape the city. Then I noticed a large amount of magical power being charged above the city. I ordered the rest of my knights. Well, I reunited with the rest of the knights and ordered them to evacuate immediately when I noticed large magical energy charging above the city. What about you, Cassandra? I, s- I saw the same thing, but I had a brief encounter with a few of the changelings wielding crossbows and a couple of vampire ghouls. They were easily dispatched, but I did notice the one go by white. I saw him for a brief moment in the city. It seemed like he was ordering everyone to retreat from the city. Once I saw the large magical energy in the sky charging up, I went to locate Scarlet and the rest of the knights, and to get further orders. I'll give you the brief rundown what I encountered during my part of the operation. I did encounter some resistance. I noticed there was a large number of people being gathered up underneath the building. I did not know that at the time. Well, I knew they were human, but I didn't know why they were gathered up. So I went to investigate. After I killed all the vampires on top of the building, that were clearly for scouts, guards most likely, I entered the building. Then I encountered a werewolf. The werewolf wasn't much of a challenge. I killed it pretty easily. Then I ventured further and I came across another werewolf, much stronger, more deadly, and a alpha, a Lycan. And apparently this alpha and her pack were keeping all the humans caged inside. I noticed a few hunters were among their number. I did not ask or did I tell. They were still wearing rags, so I don't know how many of them were hunters. I eventually portaled them away to safety. Their whereabouts and condition is unknown to me, but they're no longer my problem. They have hunters among them, their number, so I believe they'll be fine on their own. We don't need to interact with them any further. I take assert that the Alpha was eliminated, considering your reputation. Negative, she escaped. The details of the battle is not important. I escaped through a hidden passageway. Hidden floor. Then the Alpha must have took another route to escape. I highly doubt she's dead. Why don't you girls take a breather and rest? You did a good job tonight. I need to update Alice. I have no doubt she has noticed the destruction of the abandoned city, but regardless, I don't think she would have any issue with the skinwalkers for quite some time. I don't believe we will be staying here in the wolf's territory for much longer. Izuku walked out and went into the pack house and saw Alice reading a book in the library of the pack house as Izuku sat down in a chair right next to her. Alice looked away from one of the journals from her great-grandmother, Diary, who she was named after. I take it you were involved of that abandoned city being eradicated, only leaving a large crater. Izuku began to debrief Alice of the situation and the encounters he's had with the Blood Moon Pack. Just mentioning that wolf pack got a reaction out of Alice. There were one of many packs who weren't happy about the alliance with the vampires, so they went on their separate way. To think one of her old friends gets sucked into whatever madness that she finds herself in. Alice and Luna might not agree upon things, but they still have a friendship still intact. Izuku noticed a portrait of a very familiar-looking werewolf. That caught your eye, and that is a painting of my great-grandmother. The pack had that made before her death. I actually was named after her, but that was before my pack gained bigger numbers. So you are related to that Alice. Pretty much. I did had several interactions with her. She's always pleasant to be around. She's few of your wolfkin that I actually got along with. The only one I didn't get along with was the male wolfkin. Victor, I believe. Yes, Victor. I heard stories about him. Victor died before I was born, but Kate is still around. She's a lycan like myself, so she has a bigger lifespan. So I take it your grandmother was a churn. So I'm not sure how specifically it works for you lycans. My grandma was indeed a churn werewolf, but her mate was a lycan. When a lycan breeds or procreate with a churn, it varies. One child might be a lycan, one child might just be a churn werewolf. It's not a guarantee science. It's not a guarantee science, and it's not a guarantee that you will pursue a full-blood lycan. Like I said, it differs. I just got lucky in the genetic pool. Why isn't Kate running the pack out of curiosity? She has no interest in running the pack again. She keeps to herself, but I visit her every now and then. It's getting kind of late. Thank you for debriefing me on the situation. I know you didn't have to, but I do appreciate it regardless. Tomorrow I will begin getting ready to depart. I don't think you need our assistance any further. Contact us if you have any further issues, or if the skinwalkers return. Thank you for helping us. It's no problem. I am in your debt. What happened with the Blood Moon pack? What happened to the Alpha? Most likely escape the surge of magical power. Did stop our battle. I have no doubt. She most likely escaped to safety. I take it you have some sort of history with her. Yes, me and Luna have history. She's one of my best friends since childhood. We did have a disagreement on things, but we still have a friendship I like to maintain. I didn't know she was involved in this. Wolves I did see, I did not recognize the pack they belonged to. Politics, no matter what species you're in, it's always a problem. Well, I'll take my leave. Good night, Alice. Good night, Izuku. The moment Izuku went into his room, he shifted back into his cat form. He's extremely tired. The fight he did tonight tired him out quite quickly. Using his third eye did a number on his body, It doesn't damage his body, but it does take a lot of magic to maintain. With his magic reserves, it does drain a little bit of his magic reserves, but he can maintain his magical third eye for quite some time. It just makes it extremely tired afterwards, after every use. He instantly fell asleep when he went underneath the blankets as he curled up in a ball. That's where we're going to stop it. Hope you guys have a good night and day. Judge my time zones, and I'll catch you in the next video.